Shannon Lorio, a resident of the quaint town of Pavo, Georgia, was involved in a car crash caused by her own speeding. Fearing the worst, she was surprised when a miracle came in the form of her dog. She had lived in the peaceful town for most of her life, and like her neighbors, she and her husband preferred to keep to themselves. On January 26, Shannon experienced a transformative event. She and her husband had a heated argument that night, which, although not uncommon in relationships, quickly escalated. The altercation was overwhelming for Shannon. Once it was over, what she desired most was some alone time. Feeling the need to cool off, Shannon left her home and headed to her car, thinking a nighttime drive would be just what she needed. She got into the car and quickly took off, despite her years of driving experience and knowledge of safety rules. Her anger consumed her, and driving fast seemed like an appropriate outlet. She pushed down on the accelerator. Shannon's heart raced as she continued to speed. Georgia is known for its lush and wooded areas, with plenty of mature trees. While this can be beautiful to see, it can also pose a hazard for drivers. As she drove, the abundance of trees in the state became a problem for her. In addition to the dense trees, Georgia is also known for its winding roads, which can be long and winding. These roads can be particularly treacherous when combined with heavy vegetation, and one such road is the infamous NASCAR road. Despite being aware of the warnings about this stretch of road, Shannon found herself driving on it. Emotions from the argument still had Shannon on edge, and safety was not her primary concern. Nevertheless, she attempted to navigate the winding road to the best of her ability. As she came to her first sharp turn, she managed to maneuver her car through it with no difficulty. As she approached the next turn, she soon realized that this one was different than the previous. Upon entering the second curve, her car fishtailed and she lost control. Shannon remembered being thrown out of the driver's seat and through the rear window. Her head struck the glass, causing her to lose consciousness. When the poor woman woke up again, her head wouldn't stop spinning. She couldn't make sense of the situation she was in because everything was so hazy. She could feel that her legs were in the back seat and that her torso was in an uncomfortable position. Unfortunately, she was trapped because of the way my car went into the trees. Anyone who was coming wouldn't see me, said Shannon. Her car had swerved so deeply into the trees that the only way someone would have been able to notice it was if they were walking by. Cars would have sped by too quickly to have seen that anything in the area was amiss. When she realized that no one was coming for her, Shannon started to panic. She thought of her husband and their fight, about how much she regretted the drive that had led her to where she was. As her body lay weak, Shannon used the remaining strength she had to cry. Just as she was about to give up hope, a stray dog appeared at the scene of the crash. This is how a dying woman was rescued from a car crash by a homeless dog. She believed that she would be stranded there and no one would find her until it was too late. When thinking back on that moment, Shannon said, "I don't know if he was wandering around or going back to his owner, but he came across me and I am grateful to God that he did." The dog dragged her over 100 feet to get help, and this act of kindness saved her life. The mysterious animal pulled her all the way from the trees and across the grass. Finally, they reached the area just beside the road. There was a significantly better chance of Shannon finding help while in that spot, since drivers were more likely to see her.
Also, if you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these animal stories every day. Now, back to the story.
However, Shannon still felt as if she needed to do more than lie down on the ground and wait for a car to come by. Inspired by the furry animal's determination, Shannon tried to push herself off of the ground, understandably struggled at first. Nevertheless, the canine wouldn't give up on her, and so he moved closer and leaned down slightly as if offering his neck to her. Shannon wrapped her arms around the dog's neck and pulled to the best of her ability. For the first time since the car accident, Shannon stood up. She could feel the wind against her hair and skin. It was a cold night, and she wasn't wearing many layers. Despite that, she was warmed simply by the thought that this dog had gone out of its way for her sake. They stood together waiting for someone to come by. While Shannon held onto the stable canine, a vehicle finally came along. It was dark and she couldn't see clearly, so she was unable to distinguish what kind of vehicle it was. Nevertheless, Shannon was overjoyed when it slowed down to where she and the dog were. With all the strength she could muster, she leaned into the window and asked the passengers for help. She was almost in tears as she said, I just wrecked my car. Will you please call my husband?" The effort must have been too much for Shannon's fragile condition because she quickly passed out once again. As Shannon was unconscious, the strangers in the car quickly made calls for help. When she next opened her eyes, she found herself lying in a hospital bed. Alerted that she had awakened, a doctor soon came to her side to explain what had happened. Although Shannon's vision was still blurred from sleep, she could see the doctor's worried expression. The doctor spoke her name carefully. "You have a small bleed in the brain," he said. The medical staff then had to determine if surgery was necessary for their patient. Brain hemorrhages can be dangerous, so the doctors wanted to make the best decision to ensure Shannon's recovery. As she lay in bed, waiting for their decision, Shannon's mind reflected on the argument, the accident, and the dog who had rescued her. The events of the last 24 hours felt like a dream to Shannon. After a few hours, the doctor came back to her room. The medical team was relieved to inform her that the bleed was not severe and that with rest, her body would heal itself, which meant that she would not need any costly or dangerous surgery. With the support of her husband, Shannon was able to recover fully in the comfort of her home. She acknowledged the dog that saved her life and said, "If it hadn't been for him, I wouldn't be here today." Shannon couldn't stop praising the dog even though she initially thought he had an owner. However, he was actually a stray. Nevertheless, after his heroic act, people could no longer ignore him. While Shannon was recovering from her injuries, the dog was taken in by the Humane Society. The dog attracted a lot of attention and was lucky enough to be adopted. Since then, he has been named Hero, which many would consider to be a fitting reflection of his character. He was adopted by Heidi Droughty, a canine search and rescue trainer who couldn't be a better owner for this savior dog. Heidi quickly began training Hero with the goal of making him a certified search and rescue dog. "We're training him for wilderness search right now, and he's doing really well," said Heidi. It is remarkable to think that Hero was able to find and help someone in need. Despite having no prior training, it was clear to everyone how pure Hero's heart was. Shannon shared her story in an interview, and the video was soon posted online, where it received thousands of views. As she expressed her gratitude for the dog who helped her, she was overcome with emotion, tears of joy streaming down her face. "He will always be my hero," she said. If you found this story of a miracle interesting, please leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Also press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.